Today, I want to talk about the 10 most common questions that people have before starting investing in real estate. So, I want to go over these top 20 questions to hopefully either motivate you to buy real estate or make you realize that maybe real estate's not for you. So, question number one is: how do I determine the value of an investment property? So, this is a great question, right? This is the first question you usually get, and I would say it depends on which asset class. So, if you're doing residential real estate, which is 1 to 4 units, so single family home, duplex, triplex, fourplex, the value is based on the sales comps. So, what your neighbor's house sells for on a price per square footage basis is how much your house is going to sell for on a price per square footage basis, right? It doesn't matter how much rent you get. Just whatever your neighbor's house sells for, that's what your house will sell for. If the neighbor house sells for $1 million, good chance that your house will sell for around $1 million. So residential real estate, 1 to 4 units, is based on the sales comps. For commercial real estate, so if there's a commercial loan involved, so for multifamily, that's 5 units plus. That could be mobile home park, self storage, industrial, whatever that is, right? Commercial loans, the value is based on net operating income, which is income minus expense, divided by the market cap rate. So, for example, in Oklahoma, it's an 8 cap market to make it simple. So, let's just say my income is $100,000, my expense is $50,000. My net operating income will be $50,000. You divide that by 8%, and that's the value of that commercial real estate. So as you increase the income and you decrease the expense, you increase the net operating income. And if the cap rate, stays the same, then you increase the value of your apartment complex, right? If your net operating income stays the same, but the cap rate increases from 8 to a 10 cap, that means your value goes down, right? That's what's happening right now. So, first question, um, hopefully that kind of makes sense. Once I understood that distinction, that's when I made my pivot from residential real estate over to commercial real estate because the value is under my control as the operator. I control the income, I can control the expense. I can't control the cap rate, right? That's dependent on the market. Like right now, interest rates went up, so cap rates went up. Can't control that, but if interest rates go down, cap rates will go down. Can't control that as well. So the second question is, what is the best real estate investing strategy for me? And wow, this is a loaded question, right? And I'll be honest, I've been investing in real estate since 2017, and it took me 6 years before I gained any clarity on what the best investment strategy for me is. So for me, my why, and I need to remind myself, is I'm investing in real estate to retire myself from my W 2 income. I have a high income W 2, close to $200,000 in W 2 income. And my goal is to retire myself from my W 2, replace my income with real estate so that I can retire early and have the freedom to travel, have the freedom to spend time with friends and family, have freedom to do stuff that I'm truly passionate about, like teaching people, real estate or mindset or personal growth or investing. Like that's what I'm truly passionate about. So once you know your why first, then you can kind of figure out what's the best real estate investing strategy for you. So this is where it gets complicated, and this is where you kind of need somebody who's 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. And this is why it's great to invest in mentorships, coaching. I offer all that, but just finding somebody that you want to be like them, and they can help you ask you these questions, so you can really analyze your goals and pick out the best investment strategy for you. So for me, I initially started buying single family homes in California, and it's at that time, I had a mindset of, well, I want. I thought I was gonna work until I was like 50. Like my sense of early retirement was 50, right? Like typical retirement 60. I want to retire 50. It's early. So I just said, okay, well, I don't mind buying these single family homes in California. Crazy appreciation, right? Like I made half a million, um, you know, appreciation on most of my single family homes in California, and I didn't mind working, right? So I was buying these single family homes. The property breaks even at best or cash flow negative if there's any like maintenance or repairs. So I just said, okay, well, if I want to build my wealth and not retire myself from my day job, then single family homes in California is great. So I did that until I got like 4 to 5 single family homes in California, and then I quickly realized that, you know what, like I initially wanted to retire at 50. now I want to move that earlier to 35. I want to retire really early, right? Like typical millennial, right? Typical millennial. So I just said, okay, well, what? And at the time I made that pivot, I was like 30, right? Like I bought multiple 5 single family homes, and I was just like, all right, well, this, I'm building a lot of equity here, but I'm not cash flowing. I can't retire. I can't leave my day job unless I have cash flow, right? I could obviously sell my single family homes and cash in, right? Cash in, $500,000 of equity. But, my goal was to buy and hold at the time. So I just said, okay, well, what makes sense for me at this point? And I was just like, all right, I want to do multifamily or apartment complexes because the value is based on net operating income divided by the market cap rate. It's more as I increase the cash flow, increase the net operating income, increase the value. So it's the best of both worlds, right? I get more cash flow, I get more appreciation and equity. No brainer for me, right? Like that's why I did it. So I just thought, all right, well, I buy an apartment complex. You know, the first one I bought was $9,000 in gross rent. I can double this rent to $18,000, and if I double the rent, I double the value, right? So the value is roughly $800,000 day one. So if I double the rent, I double the value. Now it's worth 1.6 million, right? So I could either just sit in the cash flow, right? Like I'll probably be grossing around $18,000 a month, and let's just say my expense is 10,000. That's $8,000 in net cash flow. At that point, that's almost replacing my W-2 job. I can like retire and just do what I want, right? That's option A. Option B is if I want to scale, then I would do a huge cash out refinance, right? All in for $800,000 and I doubled the value. So I'm at 50% loan to value. So if I do a cash out refinance at 75% loan to value, I get my down payment back, I get my renovation cost back, and then I'll probably pull out an additional, a couple $100,000 on top of that, right? So, you know, let me kind of do some rough math over here. So 1.6 million times 75% loan to value. So my new loan is $1.2 million. I was all in for $800,000. So I would get my renovation cost back, my down payment back, and on top of that, another $400,000 tax free, and I can go buy an apartment complex if I want to scale. Now, if I don't want to scale, then I can just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take this $10,000 a month and then pay off my loan, right? My loan's only about $360,000. So if I cash flow $10,000 a month, that's $120,000 a year. So in 3 years, I can pay off this property. And own this 26 unit apartment complex free and clear. If I dump in my own personal W-2 income into that, I can pay it off in like maybe less than 3 years. So at that point, I don't have any obligations. I'm paid off, and then I can like retire from my day job. So, um, I think for me, to answer the question, it really depends, right? It's very complicated, and your goals constantly change, right? That's why I was trying to share my story. So the best strategy for you is what fits your lifestyle right now. What's your goal right now? And it's okay to pivot, right? Like my goal was to like just build up a bunch of equity and no cash flow. And that's why I spent like, like 3 to 4 years doing. And I did build a lot of equity. Not much cash flow though, because I was working. But then I pivoted saying, you know what? I want to get some more cash flow. That's when I pivoted into apartment complex Oklahoma, where I get more cash flow and more equity as well. Increased cash flow, increased equity, because the value is based on the upper divided by the market cap rate. That's the best of both worlds, right? So I took all the equity that I built in single family homes, dumped that into apartment complexes where I could increase the rents, increase NOI, and increase the value. Then at that point, the self reflect again to say, okay, well, if I don't want to work anymore, I can retire now or once it's stabilized, right? So maybe I can retire the next 6 months, for example, right? I retire the next 6 months and then I can relax. If I don't mind working and my job's okay, then I just can say, hey, like I will continue to work and I'll take whatever excess cash flow I have to try to pay off my loans, my pay down the mortgage, right? Pay it off faster and own it free and clear. Or I just can take the cash flow and invest in other things, right? So it really depends, and your goal is always going to change. Like I always thought I was going to be a buy and hold real estate investor, and I'm in the process of selling my mobile home park at a loss because my goals change. Like I don't want to do this. I want to simplify. So you always have to reevaluate what the real estate investing strategy is. But the key is don't get caught up in this, right? Like just pick a strategy and just commit to it for like 4 to 5 years. And then once you've had some success with it, at that point you can kind of take a step back and reflect, right? So like what I tell people, like a lot of my students, they want to get into apartment complex investing. And I just say you can't get into it directly if you have a lot of capital up front, right? But a lot, you need at least $3,000 if you want to invest in your first apartment complex, right? That you're buying for under $1 million. But a lot of people don't have $300,000 yet, right? So I just say, well, you live in California. Do you have $8,000? And you can buy a primary residence with 10% down. It's worth $800,000, and house hack it. Rent out the rooms, live in there, and maybe over the next 3 to 5 years, depending on how interest rates do and how appreciation goes, maybe it'll be worth another $200,000, and now you have $300,000. At that point, you can 1031 exchange that into an apartment complex, or take a HELOC against it, or do a cash out refinance against it, right? So like, it takes steps to get there. Like, I'm not thinking single family homes, even though I do apartments now, but I got started in single family homes, and single family homes helped fund my apartment complexes. So it's okay to get started in single family homes, build up equity, and then once you have the equity, you can transfer it to an apartment complex, right? So that's why I say, like, my coaching isn't the most sexy, because I'm like, well, it may take you 3 to 5 years of just buying save it for a single family home, own that for 3 to 5 years, and then you can sell that trip to an apartment complex. But if you have that patience and you have that roadmap and you're dedicated and it aligns with your lifestyle, then you can achieve the goal. Like, you can achieve what I'm doing, right? So it's just really just commit to a goal, whatever that is. And it's okay if you need to pivot. Right? I'm constantly pivoting too. I pivoted so many times, right? Single family, and I went to multi apartments. I went to mobile home park. And at first I thought I wanted to scale, but now I'm like, oh, maybe I don't want to scale as fast as I thought. I don't have enough real estate, right? I just want to like enjoy the cash flow and benefit. So it really helps just to talk to somebody that's more experienced that's doing it. So happy to you can reach out to my link tree and schedule some one-on-one coaching, and happy to give guidance on that end, right? So question number 3 is, how do I find a profitable investment property? So this is a great question, right? So this is how I find profitable investment properties. So most deals sent to me from realtors are no good. Most real estate deals sent to me by brokers are no good. Most deals on the MLS are no good, right? And this is so how do I find good deals? I send direct mail to find off market properties. I do not like working with brokers. Brokers make you broke. Realtors, usually are not investors. They don't have the mindset of an investor. So I like to work directly with the sellers. So I like to do direct marketing campaign, direct mail campaign. I send out letters every month, right? 300 letters per month. And basically wait for them to call me. So about 3%, 1 to 3% typically calls. So if I send out 300 letters, I get between 3 to 10 calls a month. And at that point, I try to negotiate with them directly, because when you negotiate with sellers directly, you're more likely to get a decent, reasonable price. The moment the deal goes to like a broker or a realtor, they inflate the price because they get a higher commission of 3%. So the higher they sell it for, 3% higher, right? 3% of a million is more than 3% of half a million, right? So they're incentivized to sell as high as possible. And a lot of the brokers are bad at giving performance and evaluating real estate. Like, it's not realistic. So for me, I like to find off market deals, buy direct from the seller, and buy it with equity day one, right? I bought my 26 unit for half a million. It was worth 750K. I bought $250,000 equity day one. My 20 unit I bought for 350K, and it appraised at 400,000 day one. That's 50K day one. But on top of that, I have the ability to double the rents and double the value. So not only did I buy with instant equity day one, I'm able to double the rents, which doubles the value. So there's 2 ways to make money, right? Number one, I'm buying it with money day one, and number two, I have the ability to double the rents and double the value. So even if interest rates doubled on me, which it did, right? I bought my first apartment at a 4% interest rate. Now it's at 8% in like less than 2 years. So even despite interest rates going up and it increased my cap rate as well, because I bought instant equity day one and I doubled the rent, I still come out ahead, right? So you can't lose. If you buy equity day one and you have the ability to value add, you can never lose in real estate long term, right? So that's how I find profitable investments. If you want to learn about my direct mailing campaign, you can buy my templates and my letters on my link tree. You can I actually have a direct mailing automation service where I'll do the direct mail for you. So you pay up front for 6 months of letters or 12 months of letters, and I will send out the letters for you. And all you have to do is answer the phone and respond to these hot leads, right? So I do have a service for that because I truly believe in it because that's what helped me build my wealth, right? Like I go, and that's the only way to find good deals. Like any deals brought to me, but I've looked at hundreds, thousands of deals from brokers and on LoopNet. They're all terrible, especially for apartment complexes, right? So, with single family homes, I was able to find some profitable deals on the MLS and through realtors, but with apartments, no way, it's impossible. So, can I begin investing in real estate with no money? So you can invest with no money, but you need to have the experience first, right? So how do you invest in no money? If you have a real estate partnership, I bring my knowledge and you bring the money, right? Or if you have private money lenders, right? Let's say your parents, you need to put $100,000 down, and your parents can lend you $100,000 down in second lien position. You can do seller financing, where if the property is owned free and clear, then you can put 0% down, and then you just can you know partner someone for the renovation, or you can partner them for the renovation, right? You could wholesale real estate where you send direct mailing campaign out. Let's say it's very common when I'm sending letters out for 100 units. I might get a fourplex that I'm not interested in. I can wholesale that. I can wholesale that to make $10,000-$20,000 each. You can do home equity loans, right? Like if you have equity in your primary residence, you can do a HELOC, you can do a cash out refinance, you can do a home equity loan, pull that money out tax free to leverage your primary residence, assuming you can afford the increased payments, and then buy real estate, right? So it's possible to invest with no money. I haven't done it personally yet. I put in all my own money into the deals. I'm definitely leveraging because I took equity out of my single family homes. Like I put out $1 million of equity in my single family homes in California and used that to buy my 2 apartment complexes in my mobile home park. Right. So I'm leveraging my money from the equity I have for single family homes to buy apartments. So, technically it was no money, right? But it's still my money, right? I'm using my equity to buy and leverage, right? So you can do it with no money, but from my experience, you have to be more advanced, right? Like at my stage where I've been doing it for 7 years and I've gone full cycle on 2 apartment complexes and a mobile home park, I have the skills now to be able to do it with no money. If you're a beginner, you can definitely do it, but you need somebody like myself who can help coach you through that process, right? Like you need someone more advanced who's been there to coach you through that process. So it is possible with no money, but you need a lot of knowledge, right? Question number 5 is real estate investing easier if I already own property? So, for me, it definitely is easier when you own properties, right? Like it's the law of the first deal. Like getting the first deal is the hardest one. Like buying my first single family home was the hardest, right? Why is it the hardest? Because to be able to save up like $80,000, $100,000 from your W-2 job to save it for a 10% down payment on a house in the Bay Area, that's hard, right? And then when you get your first deal, you're nervous. Like, what do I do? Like, what's escrow? Like, how do I get pre-approved from a lender? What's insurance? Like, how do I rent out these rooms? Like, it's just like 1,000 questions you ask yourself, right? So just by doing the first deal, I realized, you know what? This isn't as complicated as I thought. Like, literally, my aunt was my loan officer. You engage a loan officer. They'll ask you like, all right, well, hey, I want to buy a house around $800,000. I want to put 10% down. They're going to ask for your tax returns. They're going to ask for your pay stubs, your bank statements, your credit score. So they'll literally tell you what you need, right? And then same with like escrow. Like when you open escrow, like through First American or Fidelity, whatever, they'll tell you what you need. Like, okay, you open escrow, you give them the purchase and sale agreement. If you have a realtor, they'll give escrow that, and then escrow will then email you, say, hey, Steven, we're going to need this document. We're going to need to verify your income. We need to verify your expense. Just like the lender, they'll ask you for whatever you need, like whatever. Give us your W-2 statement. Give us, whatever um, insurance carrier you're going to use, right? Give us that quote. They just ask for a bunch of documents, and then you can ask them for help, right? Like you can ask your realtor for help. You can ask the title for help. Like I asked my lender, like, hey, do you know any great insurance brokers? And they'll be like, yeah, here's this person. And I just use them, right? So like you just go through, and then all of a sudden, as you get close to closing, you're going to do your property inspection. So you're going to hire an inspector for like $500 for single family home, or if it's apartment complex, it's going to be like maybe 3 to 7,000, depending how big the apartment is. And literally, you just do the inspection with the inspector and ask questions like, hey, like, how does this water heater look? How's the electric panel look? I'm no expert. Like, does it work? Is the roof okay? Like, you just pay experts and ask questions, right? And then after that, you close on the property, and then the property manager takes over, the deal, and at that point they'll start like say, hey, like, so what are we gonna do? We send notices to all the tenants and notify them how to pay rent, and like, this is how you get a hold of us for repairs. This is how you pay your rent and auto pay. And then you ask your property manager, it's like, what do I need to do for renovation? And then they'll say, oh, I know this general contractor, we can do it for this much, and this is what we need to fix, this is how much rent we get. It's like, literally, it's a lot of the first deal. Like, it seems overwhelming, but once you've done one deal, it gets easier and easier, right? Like, after I bought my first single family home, buying number 2, 3, 4, 5 was easy. Apartment, buying my first one was the hardest one, but buying my mobile home park and then the second apartment was easier. So it's a lot of the first deal. So it gets easier and easier time over time, and you can make it easier for you by getting coaching or mentorship from somebody who's done the whole cycle already, like myself, right? Like, literally, I could walk you through a lot of the pitfalls so that you can be proactive. You know what questions to ask. You know what to look out for. You know what to do, right? It's always a learning process, even for me, right? So it gets easier over time. Question number 6 is, do I need a real estate agent when buying a property? So for single family homes, I bought all my single family homes with a real estate agent, right? Like, to be honest, they didn't really add value to me. Like, I was finding deals on Redfin, Zillow, and I would just tell them, hey, if there's an open house, I'll go to it. If there's no open house, then I need my realtor to open the door for me, because there's a lockbox and they open the door for me, right? Other than that, the realtor just literally just wrote up my document, which is a standard template, and then they would just send it in. That's all they did, right? They would open the door for me and write a template letter for me for single family homes. So because of that, I would ask them for 1% rebate of their commission. Their commission is 3%, right? Or 2.5%. I'm asking for 1% back. So they're getting 1.5% to 2%. And they don't have to do anything because I'm an easy client. I'll make sure everything's done, everything's smooth, it's easy. I'll find the deals. You just need to like write offers for me and then open the door. Easy, right? So for apartment complexes, you don't need a real estate agent, right? I use direct mail. I go straight to the seller. It seems intimidating, but most brokers don't give you good deals. Most agents don't give you good deals. Agents and brokers don't know how to underwrite deals, give you performance, be realistic, right? They're just trying to sell you something and get commission. That's all they care about is commission. So because of that, I just go off market, talk directly to owners, and the paperwork's easy. Like for Oklahoma, all the real estate documents, it's public information. Like, you can literally Google Oklahoma real estate purchase and sale agreement, Oklahoma real estate seller financing agreement, Oklahoma real estate promissory note. You can do that for any state, like Texas purchase sale agreement, or you even ask your title company, hey, like, do you have like a standardized template that you can use for purchase sale agreement? And once you see it, it's like standard. Like, you just fill in the blanks. Like, it probably take you 2 hours to read it, and fill it out at worst, right? Like, it's not as complicated as you think, right? So for apartments, I don't really rely on realtors. I mean, obviously, if a realtor brings me a good deal and it pencils out, then I'll use them. But from my experience, they've never brought me a good deal. I've never gotten a great deal from a realtor. So, um, so the answer is no, you don't need one. Single family, maybe, right? But you don't need a realtor. So question number 7 is, how can I learn about real estate investing? So yes, there's a lot of resources nowadays, right? You got podcasts, right? I started off with Bigger Pockets, like a lot of people. I created my own, platform and coaching and mentorship, right? Like, you can win from me if you want to transition from single family homes over to apartments, right? And you have at least $300,000 to start to invest, right? Like, those are my typical students that I coach and mentor. Is they own a single family home with equity in there, or they have $300,000 saved up that they can invest in apartments, and that's where I can help the most, right? So then that's how I got started too. I started with a mentorship and a course program, and that's how I learned too. So the key is just to start learning. I mean, you're going to learn way more by taking action and learning from somebody who's actually in the weeds and owns real estate versus like just taking a course from somebody who used to invest 10 years ago, and they're just regurgitating the same strategies that worked 10 years ago, but not today, right? So it's just really, obviously, through my course, you can learn the basics, right? Like on how to pick your market, how to vet a property manager, how to vet a general contractor, how to renovate a property, how to finance a property, how to save money for the down payment, how to manage your property manager, how to manage a general contractor, how to do value add real estate, how to find your insurance, how to get insurance quotes. There's a lot of things. Right? I have like 120 videos and modules on my course. That's why the course is on more expensive end, because there's so much in there. But even despite taking the whole course, you still need like somebody who can like guide you, because it gets confusing, right? And situations vary. Like, the course is more general, right? It'll teach you the basic concepts, but applying the concepts is where you need someone like me or someone more experienced who can help guide you. Like, okay, well, did you do step one, step two, step three, and look out for this, right? These are the specifics. So that's why like coursework combined with coaching and mentorship is with accountability will make you the most successful, right? It helped me become successful, so I'm really passionate about it. Now I'm trying to do that for others as well. That's what inspired me to create my course, my mentorship, and my coaching program. And I want to help you go from single family to apartment complexes like what I did. And I had a lot of scars. I had a mentor. Some things I wish that I was taught from the mentor. They didn't teach me. I learned a lot in the job. So now I'm trying to teach people how I would like to be taught. All right. So it's more robust. But even despite all that, right? Like I jumped into single family homes without any knowledge or anything. I just jumped in, right? But when I jumped into apartments, that's when I thought, okay, let me get some more knowledge. Single family, I literally jumped in single family blind. I knew nothing about real estate, right? I just jumped in blind, took action, learned as I went. Apartments, I jumped in, with some education, right? So you can build a safety net and, invest some money to teach yourself and invest in some coaching, and it'll make your journey a little easier. So question number 8 is, should I invest in out-of-state properties? So there's another great question, right? Like for me, I was always taught, invest in your backyard. My backyard is the Bay Area, which is very expensive. Like average house cost of a house is $1 million, and that's where I started, right? Because I needed a place to live. I house hacked, so I put 10% down, live in the master bedroom, rent out the other 3 bedrooms, right? And then that'll cover my mortgage, reduce my living expense, able to save more money, repeat the process again, buy another house 10% down. So the problem with that is California, it's all appreciation, no cash flow. And appreciation makes you wealthy, but cash flow can retire you from your day job if you want to leave your day job, right? So, for me, it made sense because I didn't mind working. And I still don't mind working. And I just said, okay, well, I'll just build up all this equity. And then eventually I cashed out $1 million of my equity in California to invest in out-of-state apartment complexes in Oklahoma and a mobile home park in Alabama. And I own one single family home in Alabama as well. It's a new build. So for me, I was always taught, no, like I've never been in Alabama. I've never been in Oklahoma. I never even know what these states are. These are flyover states for me, right? I go from California to New York. I just fly over the state. I've never been there. Literally the first time I went to Oklahoma and Alabama was when I had when I had my apartment under contract and my mobile park under contract, and I flew out there to check it out, right? I was literally the time I went to those states. So you can invest in out-of-state properties, but you must have a team there, right? Like you must, and the best person to have your team is a property manager. I had a great property manager from an apartment complex that was referred to me from my mentor. So because I had a good property manager, they helped find everything else. Good property managers know good contractors. Good property manager knows good insurance agents. Good property manager knows other real estate agents or brokers, or they might be a real estate broker themselves, which is very common, right? Good property managers know other good property managers in case they want to retire, they can refer you to someone else, right? So the key is finding a great property manager. For my new build in Alabama, they were a property manager and a realtor. So they brought me this brand new construction near Huntsville, Alabama for $270K, put 25% down, rent it out for $2,000, and it cashed for $800 a month. And it's brand new. I was like, damn, that's a good deal, right? Let me buy more of these, right? And then from there, they recommend, I don't have to do any renovation, right? And then for insurance, they recommended someone for me for insurance. So, rock stars know rock stars. So you can do out of state. Obviously it's better if you can to do, in state. But, given that I'm in a high cost of living market, it just doesn't make sense. So just be open to it, right? Be open to out of state, and just know that You need to hire a good team, a good property manager, vet that property manager, which I teach in my course, right? And once you have them and they're stable, then you build your team, and you always have that backup property managers, because property managers make or break your deal. They can, if they're great, a great property manager can make a bad deal good. Uh, a bad property manager can make a good deal bad. That's how important they are, right? So number 9 is, how will I determine the rent to charge for my property? So once again, right, rely on your property manager, because they're your boots on the ground. They should know what the rents are, right? So when I'm buying a single family home, I ask the property manager, how much can this rent out for? They'll tell me they can rent for $2,000. So that's how I calculate my numbers and my cash on cash return. Same with my apartment complex. I said, all right, if I do no renovation to this apartment complex, how much rent can I get? So at the time, the rent was 400, was around 350, right, for a unit. And they just said, well, honestly, if you just do basic touch ups, don't do anything major, you could probably raise the rents to like around 500 to 550, which is $200 more, right? But they said that, okay, well, if you spend around $10,000 per unit and you renovate everything, new kitchen, new flooring, new paint, new bathroom, everything brand new, right? You can rent this for around 750, which is double, right? So I just said, you know what? There's probably some units that are more beaten up and they need full renovation for $10,000, and that one I can get 700 to 750. And the units that are like decent and I just can do basic touch ups here and there, and I can raise the rents to like maybe 550 to 600, right? So they'll tell you, right? And then you can also look online. You can look on Rentometer. They're great. So you can look at Section 8 housing. It's public information. You can look on Zillow, right? Like, or apartments.com. They'll tell you how much apartments are renting for in the area. Like, I teach all this on my course as well, like how to find rental comps. So you know what your rents will be. But your best bet, even just by looking at Section 8, even just by looking at Rentometer, even just by looking at apartments.com, your property manager is the best bet, right? So that's how you answer the question. So you ask your property manager, and that's how you underwrite the deal, right? Based on the rents that they think they can get. And my property manager is spot on. They said that I can get around 700, 750, and that's what I've been getting. And on my 20 unit, they said around 500 to 550, and that's what I've been getting, right? So they know. Number 10 is, how do I find the right tenant for my rental property? So once again, your property manager will do this for you, not you. I do both, right? So for my single family homes in California, I will find tenants myself. Like, I will post on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. People will message me. I'll ask for some documents, like, okay, give me 3 months of pay stubs, 3 months of bank statements. Show me your credit score. You can show from your Chase app, Wells Fargo, any banking app. They show it. Give me a reference from your last landlord. You know, and then I may or may not do a background check, right? Depending on the demographic. So that's what I do for my properties. And then at that point, if they're serious and, I have a good feeling about it, then, I move forward with them. If you treat them well, they treat you well, has been my experience in California, for single family homes. And then for my apartments and mobile home park, I leave that to my property management. So they have an application process, they must apply. I think my property manager requires at least 3 months of 3 times the income. So if the rent is 500, they expect you to take home at least 1,500. To that 2,000, they do a background check, credit check, background check to check for eviction history. Are they criminals, sex offenders, whatever it's on their record. Credit check, make sure the credit score checks out. Income verification, employment verification. So once all that is pre-approved, they'll let them know, hey, you're pre-approved for the property. Do you want to rent it? And then they'll pay and move in, right? So usually, despite that process, you might get some bad tenants. I evicted like 2 or 3 on my 20 unit, and they passed the background check and everything. And I just asked them, well, what could we have done better that last time? And then learn from that process, right? So kind of the best question is, it's really your property manager's screening process. If your property manager is just continuously bringing in bad tenants, then so sometimes if you fill up the property too fast, and that was maybe my downfall, was I was kind of pressuring my property manager to fill in the properties fast, because I had, 8 vacant units and I had a hard money loan that was being called due in like 3 months. I just said, you know what, let's just rent these out. I want to refinance it and we'll worry about the tenant base. And, I was able to rent out 8 units pretty fast in, 3 months, but because of that process, that they may have cut some corners and been more lenient on the process. And, we're doing it during the holidays. So the tenant base is not as great during the holidays because who moves during the holidays? So, had some tenants that weren't as good as I hoped they would be. And then, from there, um, basically just asked like, well, what do we learn from this experience and how can we improve it for the next time? And she told me some stuff and how they tweak their process, and that's it, right? So it's trial and error. So hopefully, I know I mentioned those 20 questions. I'm gonna do 10 on this video and then 10 on the next video to leave a little suspense. But let me know if you have any questions about real estate. Put it in a comment down below, and I'd be happy to answer it in like a video like this. So hopefully you found value, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you so much.